for All Podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth. Welcome to episode 79. Yes, people. Thank you for making us on the top. We used to be number 56 on the best comedy stand up podcast. And today the numbers came out. We're 79, so we're slacking off. So I want to encourage you to subscribe to Laughter for All Podcast, and you can watch it all over. Today we're starting on a new platform which is called Restream. We used to be on Zoom all along last year and a half. Today we are on this wonderful what do you call it? This new platform that you can able to watch us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, wherever you want to watch it. So this is the first time. So I'm excited to bring our guest today. He is a friend of mine. I've known him for years and years. We performed together, and he is. His name is Bill Farmer. Bill Farmer, for decades, audience of all ages have enjoyed Bill Farmer's standout work in vehicles and venues as diverse as his talents, from clubs to conventions, broadcasts to podcasts, and TV screens to movie screens. What began in the stand up comedy clubs of America's heartland has become one of the most colorful careers in Hollywood, with a seemingly endless list of live and recorded performances engaging fans of every demographic. While Bill has famously performed as the official voice of Disney's Goofy and Pluto since 1986, he's been the official voice. His sterling voice acting resume includes thousands of leading and supporting roles in film, television, advertising, consumer products, and more. For his unparalleled body of animation voice work with such leading studios as Pixar, Warner Brothers, Universal, and MGM, Bill became the first voice actor to receive the prestigious Freleng Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Animation. Equally distinguished is the Immortalizing Disney Legend Award. Wow, recognizing individuals whose unique talents have helped shape the Disney legacy, which Bill received with entertainment icons Robin Williams and Betty White. Further adding to Bill's many honors in the 2015 Annie Award for Best Acting in a Television Series and an Emmy nomination for his memorable performance in the hit animation series Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. We watched all that. Bill can currently be seen on television in Disney's Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Amphibia, The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, and has host and executive producer on It's a Dog Life with Bill Farmer. So on Disney Plus, to name a few. So please help me welcome my good friend, Bill Farmer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much, Nazareth. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let me start. You're not originally from California, right?
No. I grew up in a little town in south central Kansas, wheat country. It was a great place to grow up. Kind of boring sometimes. We had one theater, which I was enamored with. I loved movies and television because there wasn't a whole lot to do in the middle of Kansas year-round.
No, I'm just kidding.
Still, it's like that. The town, Little Pratt, Kansas, it's about 7,000 people. It's still about 7,000. And but it was a great place to grow up because I got a lot of great friends that I have to this day. And I hate to date myself, but this year, I might go back in October for my 50th high school reunion,
Wow.
which really makes me old, I'll tell you. And but it was a good place to be from, I guess.
Now, and then you moved to where? How old were you when you moved to Texas?
Well, let me see. I went to the University of Kansas. I grew up in Pratt until I was old enough to go to college, and I went to University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas. Got my degree in journalism, kicked around in radio for a number of years, and finally wound up in Dallas, Texas, which is where I met my current wife, Jennifer, and we got married in Dallas, June 2nd of 1984. So we've been, married, what is it, 5 years? Yeah.
and
Awfully long time.
So you moved to Dallas to do what? To just find work?
At the time, I went to learn about electronics because I was in these radio stations and I just knew enough electronics to be dangerous. Well, they were like, well, you know, electronics, you're the engineer now. And I would get these schematics of the transmitter and stuff, and it would show outlined areas in red and saying, caution, death on contact, high voltages, a lot of amperage. And I said, you know, I know just enough to really be dangerous. So I went to electronics school originally in Dallas and got out of, you know, show business and radio altogether for about 3 years as I became an electronic technician at some companies that made like computer chips. And but during that time, I kind of discovered show business again. In other words, I couldn't get it out of my blood. I liked performing and I liked show business. And there was a comedy club in Dallas that had open mic nights on Tuesday night. I went one night and I said, you know, I ought to give this a shot. And if I don't try this, when I'm old, I'm going to kick myself. So I wrote a little comedy routine with voices because I've always been able to do impressions and voices and stuff. And I got a pretty good reception. And I decided, you know, I'm going to try this. So I switched at the electronics company from midnight till 8 in the morning is my shift. And during the day, I would go on auditions and try out comedy in the evenings and stuff before I went to work at midnight, which was really tough. And within about 6 months, I was starting to travel at clubs throughout Texas and in the South, and did that for about 4 or 5 years until an agent that I had back in Dallas said, well, you know, all these voices you do, you ought to go out to Hollywood. And, oh, that's a big step. But with Jennifer's backing, she stayed in Dallas. I got an apartment out here in Los Angeles. And as luck and God's will would make it, about 5 months later, my agent said, well, do you do any of the Disney characters? And Goofy was always my favorite. And I said, gosh, well, I can do kind of a Goofy. Oh, yeah. My Donald's not too good. It's that's a tough one to do. It's all I can do is, that's about all. And Mickey Mouse, you know, gosh, oh boy, you know. But Goofy stuck, and out of about 1,000 people, they picked me, and I've been doing it now since January of 1987.
Okay, let me take you back. Now, how long were you married to Jennifer when you moved to by yourself to
Just
Hollywood?
about 2.5 years. Just about 2.5 years. We got married in 84. I moved out to California in 86, in the summer of 86.
Me too. I
Oh,
moved in,
really?
yes, I moved in 86 later in the fall of 86. I moved from Ohio to California. Now, how was she working? Was Jennifer working at the time?
At the time that I met her, she was a jingle writer, you know, that you might hear commercials, you know, at McDonald's today, you know, get a Big Mac today. And she would write those little jingles. And she worked in that for a number of years. And she's always been a great salesperson. She sold, you know, like typewriter ribbons over the phone to people cold calling. She's always been great at that. And she and her family I think they were a little scared about me doing stand-up comedy because that's kind of rough. Okay.
Right.
He's leaving a real job, and I quit my job at the electronics company to go full-time into stand-up the day before I got married, which
Oh,
thrilled her parents. He's doing what?
were you making enough money from comedy to quit or no?
No,
But
not at all.
so you married a woman who knows how to make money, right?
Yes. She was kind of supporting us in the beginning as I would scrape together. But for the first, while I was getting the comedy going, I worked midnight to 8 in the morning for about 1.5 years while I started getting a little bit, you know, but I was too tired all the time. So I decided
Right.
we'll give up this nighttime stuff and go full time into stand up. And it was a great leap of faith, but it turned out okay.
This is important, Bill, and I'm dwelling on this point because there's a lot of people, especially right now in this pandemic, where
Yes.
really they're thinking of changing career, of doing
Yeah.
what they love to do. And you said something really powerful, which is like you don't want to be later on in life
No.
regretting. I wish I tried this, and you did that. You're a living proof. You did it, and God blessed you with it. Now, when you moved to Hollywood, did you have your son? You have one son, right? Did you
Yes.
have a son
Yeah.
or?
Not at that time. He was born out here. He's 31 and was born in 89. So it was after I got the job with Goofy for a couple of years. Then we had our son. Yeah.
So you moved to Hollywood, nothing, no, nothing secure.
Nothing. Nothing at all. And there's nothing guaranteed in this business. As I tell students that I teach who want to get into voiceover, there's roughly 150,000 Screen Actors Guild members in Los Angeles. This is the big leagues. It's like if you want to come out and get into voiceover, um, you're competing against Tom Hanks and Tim Allen and all of these other name stars who are also vying for those few roles far in between. The 150,000 people that are trying to do this, and only on any given week, I've heard there's about 5 to 10,000 acting jobs, period, in Hollywood. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of waiters and waitresses in Hollywood.
Now, when you first met Jennifer, the first date, did you try any voices on her?
Oh yeah, I actually met her at a Valentine's Day party, and she was with a date who did voices, and I did all the old ones from the old days, like you know. Well, I like Jimmy Stewart and Walter Brennan, all them sort of things. Johnny Carson, an exciting voice to do. And I was just one of those strange kids that could do these voices on our show tonight. And I would just do these wacky voices. And oh, yeah, that was my way of um, trying to impress her.
And she was dating a voiceover actor. What's the
Yeah,
chances?
I know. I guess I did better voices. I don't know.
Well, of course you did. So you moved to Hollywood, and okay, let me ask you this question: if you had to go back again and choose your the trajectory of your life, would you go to stand up or would you go to voiceover?
Um,
Voice acting.
voiceover has turned
Voice
out
acting, I
to
mean.
be, yeah, if voiceover has turned out to be the best. I'll tell you, stand up is so tough, and I admire anyone that can do that consistently because it is very vulnerable and it's kind of raw. It's you and an audience, and there's no guarantee. You go out on that stage, and okay, will they like me? It's nerve wracking for me, and was back then. But I had to get over that, not knowing that that was some of the best training I ever had for doing voiceover, because when you learn from an audience. You learn what's funny. And in the stand-up days, I would tape my shows and I'd listen back and well, that joke didn't get any laughs. Why not? And I'd either rewrite it or something and try it again. Or if a few times I did it and it just never worked, out it went. I had to cut it out of the act because the audience didn't like it. Even if I liked it, I was trying to figure out what worked with the audience. But you learn how to say a line, you learn how to deliver a line to get the most out of the comedy. And that's so important when you're a voice actor because all you get is a script. You
Right.
don't you're not watching a cartoon. They haven't animated it yet. They always do the voices first. So it's
Oh,
just script and a microphone. And you have to know how to say that line to get the most comedy out of it.
did you have to take acting classes to do that?
I always recommend. I took acting in college some, and it was mostly just by the stand up. All stand up, it's acting.
Of
There
course.
are nights when you're just not ready to go up, you just don't feel good or whatever. Man, when you hit the stage, you have to be there. It is acting, and so it was. The acting, the stage, stand up stage was my acting teacher.
Now, first, okay. So there were 1,000 people. You got the job for Goofy,
Yeah.
And so the first day on the job, you have the actor or the actor who's doing Mickey and Minnie and others.
Huh?
And how did you get along with them? I mean, were you nervous?
Oh, I was terrified. True story. The first time that I did Goofy, and I met the voice of Donald Duck, Tony Anselmo, and he is an animator for Disney as well. So he can draw beautifully. He was sitting there drawing Donald just on a piece of paper, just playing around. And I thought to myself, I said, well, we don't have to draw these guys, do we? And I didn't know. I was so green and so naive and new to this business. I didn't know how it worked. But then I found out, oh, we just have to talk like them. But knowing I had to do one sentence and replace the dialogue in an old cartoon. So in that instance, we were looking at an old cartoon, and I replaced one line of dialogue, and it was terrifying.
You
But
remember what it was?
I had to say, gosh, I put my foot on the gas and I'm out of here quick. That's what I had to say. But I had to watch the cartoon, and then they have like beeps, you know, beep, beep, beep. Gosh, I put my foot on the gas and I'm out of here quick. And I had to make it look like, you know, Goofy was talking in that. And you never know if you're going to get hired again. They don't hire you and say, you're now the voice of Goofy forever.
Oh,
I'm
really?
an independent contractor. I still am to this day. Every job is a new contract,
Even as Goofy.
even as Goofy and Pluto. Even though I've done about 4,000 jobs for Disney now for 35 years almost. And so I think I got the job, but there's no guarantee.
They don't. Now, the first time they hired you to do good, was it good enough to pay you to where you can call Jennifer and say, come on down? Or
Oh,
no?
no, no. It was like 200 and some dollars probably for that. So it was no. And you never know if there's going to be a second one. So it was about a month and a half later, I did it again. They called me up again, and then maybe a month after that. But it wasn't until 2 or 3 years later where it really got regular enough to where I said, yeah, this, I think it's going to make it. I'm going to make it. There's no guarantees in voiceover.
So it's not like you go to the studio every day. That's your job. You have your parking spot, or you
No, no,
don't.
it's not like that. It's when they have work for you. I always just describe it. It's like being the plumber. You know, they've got a leak in the pipes. I go in, I fix it, I go home. That's kind of the way it is. But now, you know, I've been doing it so long. I've got what, 4 or 5 series on television right now. So it is, for the last several years, it's been quite regular. But there have been lean times during that 35 years. But luckily now it's pretty well taken care of.
Now, when you did Pluto, did you create the character, or was it already there?
Yeah, Pluto goes back to 1930 and was originally voiced, and Goofy 1932. So that was stepping into a voice that is already there. And Pinto Colvig, who was the original voice of Goofy, also did Pluto, among others. And that came up just on actually my second job as Goofy. They needed Pluto to bark. And they just asked me, hey, we know that the guy that did Goofy, Pinto Colvig, did Pluto. Let's hear you bark. And whoa, 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 you know. So I barked, and they said, that'll work. And that was as simple as that. And I've done Pluto for the last 34 years.
That's right. Pluto doesn't speak. He just barks,
No.
right?
And that's rougher on the voice, because if you like bark and howl for about an hour and a half, you start sounding like this after a while.
What other characters for Disney have you done, voice?
Oh my gosh, I'm on a show now called Amphibia, where I play an old frog named Hop Pop, who's kind of got an East Texas kind of an accent, and he's kind of like this. For Warner Brothers in the movie Space Jam, I got to do some of Mel Blanc's voices. Sylvester the Cat, Fuckatash, you know, I hate rabbits, you know. Oh, I thought I saw a putty tat. I've done.
Oh, you done that? I thought I saw a putty cat.
No, that I just do that. I didn't do that in Space Jam. On that one, I did Foghorn Leghorn. You know, I'm a big old chicken. And, you know, that voice, Yosemite Sam, Sylvester the Cat. On Robot Chicken, I've done Bugs and Daffy. Oh, brother, ain't I a stinker? And many other incidental characters. So, you know, you always get to do new stuff.
Now, those, do you do Sylvester the Cat regularly, or you just did
No,
it for?
no. They're different. Warner's is a little different than Disney in the fact that they kind of go through, they've had many people do these voices. Right now, it's a friend of mine named Eric Bauza, who's in the new Space Jam that they're doing. I guess he does the voices better than me, but, you know, I can do them. And occasionally there'll be something that comes up. But Disney, when I got the voice, they were going through a time where they are just brought online the Disney Channel, and you might see an old Goofy cartoon with something new, and they had 4 or 5 guys doing Mickey and Donald and Goofy, maybe down in Florida at Disney World, at Disneyland, someone for record albums. They wanted to solidify it so that there was one character for each of the main voices. There was one, they wanted one Mickey, one Minnie, one Goofy, one Donald, all the Daisy, all the rest. And they settled on me for Goofy and Pluto. So I was very lucky in that these are some extremely rare characters that have been around since the 1930s. So,
Right.
you know, actually 27 or 8 for Mickey and 1930 for Pluto, and they're still on television every day. So they're extremely enduring characters, and I've just been so fortunate and thankful that I've been able to voice not only my favorite Disney character when I was growing up, but ones that is still being used all the time.
From the question that's being asked right now, I know later on we're going to talk about the classes that Bill teaches, so we will get to that towards the end. Right now, someone asked, do you get confused between characters? Sometimes you're doing one and then
Sometimes, if it's a character that I invent, rather than I've known Goofy, so I know the way he sounds and I know how I should make him sound. But if it's a new character, sometimes if I do it in more than one cartoon, I'll say, "Can you play me back what I did last time? Because I don't remember how I did it." And then they'll play it back, and then I go, "Oh, that's how." Okay. And then I can lock into it. But yeah, you can kind of get messed up, but you can keep them pretty well straight if you know the characters, and you learn that after a little while.
when did you get to a point where you're fully like you go, okay, this is full time for me, the voiceovers? Do you have like an agent, a voiceover agent that
Oh
sends
yeah.
you on auditions?
Yes, I have an agent who looks for you know, jobs, commercials, animation, all sorts of things. And I still audition probably, you know, 50 to 100 times before I land another one. Just getting the voice of Goofy, I got that, doesn't mean I'm good for something else. And they hear thousands of people on an audition. It might be as simple as saying, "Batteries not included." You know, it can be like that, or "Come to McDonald's today," or whatever it is. It can be commercials or cartoon characters. And I audition all the time, every week. I audition right from this room, my little studio. And during pandemic, I do all my cartoons right here as well.
Have you ever done the park announcements for Disney?
I have done many years ago. There was a thing called State Fair, and I did the voice of, I don't know if you remember Mr. Haney on Green Acres. They wanted a Western one, and that's one of my favorite voices to do. So I was doing all of the announcements as Mr. Haney. And during that time, I actually got to do Goofy as the monorail conductor. So you never know what you're going to run into and get a chance to do.
That's funny, but because have you created any characters yourself that was
Oh yeah. For
what was
example, on
your
the
favorite?
television show Hop Pop that I do on Amphibia, that was totally, I looked at the picture of what they wanted, and he's supposed to be kind of a crotchety old frog and maybe a Southern or a Western accent. And that's, I just actually, this is kind of a voice that was kind of based on Ross Perot. If you remember Ross Perot, who ran for
Course,
president.
of
Yeah,
course.
of course, you got that. And I figured, well, that's kind of a good kind of a voice. And they liked it. And so it was based on Ross Perot, because it's always good to have something that you can kind of remember how to do. And it seemed to fix the picture of the character, to fit the picture of the character. And they liked it. Now we're in our 3rd season of that. And it's a great deal of fun.
So when you develop a new character, do
Yeah.
you kind of make it like give it an attitude, a personality, all that, right? You
Oh,
have to create it.
absolutely. What I teach students is that there's three parts to a voice, really. And it's what I call a TAS. In other words, there's tone, which is what your vocal cords do. So I can talk high like a falsetto in my regular voice, or a deep voice like this. That's I'm doing that with my vocal cords. Now there's articulation. That's what your tongue does. If I do a deep voice and let's say I put on some sort of an English accent, that sort of thing, I got a different character right there. Or I could make him a New York guy, you know, same kind of tone. Or I could take the tone and make him into a New York guy, same articulation, different tone. And you can come up with voices like that. And there's all sorts of different things you can do, like doing Kermit the Frog. If you were doing a Kermit the Frog impression, it's an adenoidal voice. It's kind of this is where it starts, and you go sounds like Kermit the Frog, and then you articulate and kind of play around with it until it sounds the way you want.
That's amazing. You made it sound so easy. So you mean the accents is only the tongue job to change the
Yes,
accent?
the
So
accent.
British accent, where do you put your tongue?
For which one?
British accent.
I don't know. It's kind of, you know, it's in the regular part of your voice, you know, it's like I say, you know, you can change the tone around, and it's just the way you form the vowels and the different accents. Like if you're doing Russian, you can go like do like this. It's like you have someone gave Novocaine to your tongue, you know. Or
That's amazing.
and so just playing around with those kind of voices is a great deal of fun. And accents, you know, there's all sorts of different accents. My grandparents grew up in Florida, and my mom grew up in Florida, and we'd go down there. And I always noticed that it always sounded like they were saying everything is a question, like, Bill, how you doing? What are we going to do today? What's going on there? How would you hammer that hammer? You know, and I said, hammer, what's a hammer? Oh, a hammer. Okay, you know, and I picked this stuff up.
Have you done Middle Eastern accent before?
Not a great deal. There are voices that I can just do, and there's other ones that I can follow along. If I hear it, I can usually get pretty close.
Well, you've been hearing me for 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's very sharp. There's a very sharp kind of thing. I'd have to listen to it, and then what you do, you take a sentence, one sentence, and you do it over and over until you get that, and then you add other sentences. And like, what would be a good Middle Eastern phrase?
Like, I love my hummus. No.
I like my hummus. I like my hummus. Is that getting closer? I could work on it. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. What are some of the challenges you faced when you were first starting out?
Probably the same challenges that I have now. And for anyone getting into the business, it's very helpful to have rich parents, because you're going to need some support when you start out. You can't depend on voice acting to pay the bills. It's got to be because of a passion you have for it, and that you have to do it, really, because it is so competitive that it's very difficult to make a living. Over 90% of the Screen Actors Guild members out here really make no money during the year. And if you get maybe a one shot on a television series, that might pay $1,000. But if you only do that once a year, that's not too much money coming in. It's quite difficult. It's to have a secondary career. And so this is an avocation, not a vocation, until you get to a point and you're being requested and you get either on a series or are well known enough that, you know, that you get requested from time to time.
How was raising a child for you, being a voice actor? Were you continuously auditioning and going out?
It was difficult, especially in the early years when the money wasn't coming in that much, and they didn't really have between series with Disney was the tough time. We do, you know, something for the park or a record album, but it was sporadic. It's with the when there were, but but Disney, and especially Goofy, it started out in the early 90s. I got my first series was one called Goof Troop. That changed everything because that was a regular job, and we did 80 some episodes of that. That was a weekly thing. And then we had in 95 a Goofy movie, which was one of the biggest things that I've ever done.
I remember that one.
And that's an interesting one because that's the one that people really remember, probably more than anything I've ever done. People will come up to me, and if you remember the movie, it's about Goofy and his son Max going on a trip, and Max lies to Goofy so that he can go to this Powerline concert, kind of a Michael Jackson type of concert, and impress his friends. So there's a lot of layers to Goofy that we added of emotional, distrust and disappointment and things you don't think of when you think of Goofy that we had to come up with for that movie. But all the time people come up and say, I couldn't really talk to my dad, or I had a bad relationship with my dad, but that movie brought us together. And so we always watch it together. Countless times fans have said that that movie really meant a lot to them. And that really, gets to my heart. It really does. It's very gratifying to do something that, it's just a job, but it's more than just a job. It matters to people. It is important to people. It helps bring people together. It brought me and my son together because he was about 5 when the movie came out. And I think it may have messed him up for a while because I don't think he knew whether he was my son, Goofy's son. Does Goofy's son Max, is that my brother? It messed him up for a while. But no, it was a big bonding thing for me as well, and my son, as it is to as much as Goofy and his son.
I want to get back to that question, but did Bill ever meet Walt Disney or any of the family?
No, Walt died at the age of 65. I think he died in 66, 1966. But I knew Roy Disney, his nephew, who ran and Michael Eisner was in charge of the company when I came in. And I've certainly had a lot of opportunity to meet most of the people over at Disney through the years and interact with them. And it's like a big family. Wayne and Russi, Wayne Allwine, Russi Taylor, who did Mickey and Minnie, and Tony and Selma, who did Donald. We were like a family. Unlike any of the other studios, it was really a family type of feel. And they were personal friends. They came over. We had dinner together, all of this stuff. Wayne, unfortunately, passed away in 2009. Russi passed away last year. It was a great time in my life. 25 years of working with them as a family, more than just a job, more than just a studio.
Have you ever had the urge at a drive-through to order like Goofy?
Oh, I did that when I was in high school. I was very much of an introvert. And I would do those kind of voices. They'd say, order in a weird voice. And I'd do, well, I'd like myself a Big Mac and an order of fries. And they'd look out and everything. And so, that's cool, man. Do another voice, dude. And so it just kind of became a thing. But it was just for jokes in those days. I never thought it'd be a career.
So let's say they're doing, like, say, the movie. Let's say the Goofy movie. They give you the full script, right?
Yes.
And you have to work on it, and you have to go each one, and they have to go and figure out which attitude, which mentality, which something, how you're going to present it and all that. So how long is this process takes to do like a movie or a
television? It's interesting. There are different lengths of time for different projects. A Goof Troop, which was my first series, we would get one script. A lot of times we wouldn't even get it before our recording thing. It was cold. We went in there and just boom, did it like a radio play. We were all in the same room, 10 actors, 10 microphones, and we just did it in little pieces until we got it all done. A Goofy movie, they had a lot bigger budget, so they were able to rewrite things and make sure that everything worked. It was off and on for almost 1.5 years to 2 years, and I did about 40 some recording sessions on a Goofy movie, which is very unusual. It was very unusual, but they wanted to get it right. And that was mostly me solo, just me in the room, no other actors there. Sometimes with Jason Marsden, who played Goofy's son Max, I would record a lot of stuff with him, but then they'd record the same thing over, just me, maybe 5, 10 times to get it each line exactly the way that they wanted it.
Wow. Now, what do you call it? As far as could you sing with Goofy's voice or any other voice, or is that hard or impossible to?
To think, it's almost important. It's very important to think like the character.
No,
I
no,
remember
sing. I'm sorry. I mean
was a
singing.
sing. Oh yeah, you don't expect Goofy to be a great singer, so that took the pressure off of me. But I've done probably about 25 record albums over the years, and that dates me, record albums. But we've done a lot of recording, and there were some songs. I did 2 songs in a Goofy movie, which incidentally we did that on day 1. We did the songs on day 1 of recording, which was kind of it's a little scary, but you just do the best you can. And I just figure, they don't expect Goofy to be that great a singer anyway. I'm not Sinatra. So
how about Popeye? Have you ever done Popeye?
Will blows me down. Oh, it's Popeye. Oh, I can do the laugh and everything, but they aren't doing much with that character these days. So I'm glad I got Goofy.
So, how did your marriage thrive or survived being in Hollywood? You and Jennifer, I'm sure she had a job, and she have a
Yes.
child, and you have a job that doesn't, doesn't regularly get us hustle like comedy, like stand up, like we live next show,
Yeah.
next show, next show. Yeah, how did that go for you?
It was very important to have someone that understood show business. Jennifer, her degree was in piano, jazz piano. She wrote jingles. She's been a director. She's directed documentaries. When we came out here through our church, we found out that our church, which is a Bel Air Presbyterian church, we found out a lot of the charities that the church gave to. Habitat for Humanity, the Ann Douglas Center, things like that. Jennifer came up with the idea, says, well, no one knows what those things are. We all know what Habitat for Humanity kind of is, but we don't know all these other charities. So she went to the
Outreach.
to the church and just said, why don't we do some documentaries on what these charities are? And we did 14 different charities, which kept us busy as filmmakers for several years, really. And it was more of a passion of love than of money. But as a director and in show business, we felt it was one way to give back. And so it also honed our skills and maybe led up to It's a Dog's Life, because we were able to present an idea to Disney and they bought it immediately. So, that.
Yeah, before I get to that movie, I want to ask you, how did you come to know Christ, and how did your walk in Hollywood? How did you thrive during that?
Well, I became a Christian, kind of slowly. It's just been kind of a lifelong thing. It's just, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to be, it's, even if I wasn't a Christian, the 10 Commandments, Lord's Prayer, it just hits me. It makes sense. It's a good way to live. I mean, the principles of Christianity are a good way to live, if nothing else. It's, it's just, the 10 Commandments, it's hard to beat them as rules. And if you live your life like that, the golden rule, if you just do that one, if you can do that one, treat others as you would have them treat you, you got it pretty well covered, And
what do you think Moses sounded like?
Moses? Well, he actually probably had I think in the Bible they talked, had a thick tongue. In other words, I think they think he stuttered. So maybe it's like, that's all, Pharaoh.
That's funny. Nobody ever thinks of that. But
yeah, so, they think he actually stuttered. I think I've heard that before. That so he didn't sound like Charlton Heston,
Right. So when you moved to Hollywood as a Christian, so you joined the church, Bel Air Press,
Yes,
which is it's a great
Jennifer
church.
had gone to the National Presbyterian in Washington, D.C. when she grew up with Louis Evans Sr., who founded Bel Air Presbyterian. So that was a natural place for us to check out. And we've been there ever since we came here and became members in 1988.
Now, I did one of my Laughter for All outreaches at Bel Air. I rented the building. It was expensive, but it's funny. I just shared the story with you because you're an elder at that church. Is we had what do you call it? We rented the building, and then we had a fire, and the fire came very close. It got to the museum. It
Yeah.
coming close, and we just decided to keep the date, and we prayed about it. And I met the pastor, the current pastor, Sam's a great
Yeah.
guy. And it was just amazing. We had a full house completely in that beautiful building. If you're in LA or in Southern California, you never visit Bel Air, you gotta go inside and see the building. Just a
Yeah.
beautiful,
It's a beautiful
beautiful.
sanctuary. Yeah.
And now, did you have any challenges being a Christian in around Disney or in Hollywood or?
No, it's kind of like my job is to give the best performance I can in whatever role is given me with Disney, and I don't worry about the language or anything doing cartoons. So that is kind of a thing that I don't have to deal with. But I just try and do the best job I can because I'm not going to proselytize through cartoons or anything like that. I just try and do as good a job as I can, and live my life in a Christian-like manner without. I don't go overboard on it as far as the public or anything, but I just try and live my life the way I think God would want me to.
Wonderful. Have you ever done Billy Graham?
I could do Billy Graham. He had that kind of deep Southern voice and kind of he was loud,
So, what made you want to do It's a Dog's Life? I mean, that's your movie. That's you and Jennifer, right? That's your baby.
Yes, yeah. It came about. We were just thinking. A friend of mine who lives up in Reno had asked me to come up, and he was a cameraman on the show The Amazing Race for several years. Well, when he quit that show, he lived in Reno, Nevada, and wanted to do a local television show up near Reno on interesting people that have interesting vocations. And he wanted me to be the host of it just for the demo to see if he could sell this series. I went up to Reno. We went to an equestrian center where they had horses and people getting the old English, tally-ho, with the horses and the dogs. And they had these Walker hounds, about 50 of them. And when I was just messing around, I was playing with the dogs and I was doing weird voices. I do, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the coyote is going to get away from you. He's going to be round. You're all flabby, and I was just playing around. That footage kind of jumped out at us and said, maybe we should just do something on dogs because I've made my career doing dog voices, it seems like, for Disney. Now I'm stepping out from behind the microphone to find out about real dogs because I've always had dogs. As a matter of fact, I've got my dog. If you could see her right there on the floor, that's my dog, Boo, and she always hangs around me. And I've loved dogs forever. And so we came up with this idea called It's a Dog's Life, where we'd find out about real working dogs and interesting jobs that dogs have. And Disney, we presented it in January of, I think, 2019. They loved the idea right off, ordered 10 episodes. And as executive producer and host, I was going all over the country to find out about different dogs. I got buried in the snow in Telluride, Colorado, where they train avalanche rescue dogs. The mayor of Rabbit Hash, Kentucky is a dog. We did a story on that. We went to LAX where they have the Beagle Brigade they search out, make sure that people don't have like fruit or whatever in their suitcases that can bring in insects that we don't want in California. And these dogs will kind of, hey, you got fruit in there, you got to get rid of it. and just fascinating jobs that dogs have. It was just the biggest thrill ever to get a chance to do that. And I think the last one we did, which is just right as COVID was coming in, it was in February of 2020, just before we closed down in March. We were in Hawaii, where they have some dogs that keep the nene geese away from the airport, chase the geese away so they don't get in front of the planes and get hit and stuff.
Interesting.
And there's another group of dogs, and they were Jack Russell Terriers. There's 3 of them that guard the whole island of Oahu, and they go by every car and thing that is imported into Hawaii to make sure snakes have not gotten up in the wheel wells and snuck into Hawaii, because they don't want snakes and invasive species to get loose in Hawaii. And so these dogs are protecting the Hawaiian Islands from invasive species by trying to find snakes and whatever they can. And they're amazing at it. Their sense of smell is absolutely incredible.
Now, have you worked with Vislas? You know what a Visla is? It's
What
a
is
Hungarian.
a
A Visla is a Hungarian dog. It looks
Yes.
like the other dog, which is like the duck hunting, the marine, the
Yeah.
different.
No, I haven't worked with that kind of a dog. Most of it border collies. We've worked with bloodhounds. We've worked with Jack Russell Terriers. A lot of rescue dogs are mutts. They aren't any particular, because a lot of them are not really good pets because they're hyperactive and they just want to go, 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 go. But they can find you in debris fields. Let's say there was an earthquake and houses collapsed. These dogs can find you immediately. It's incredible. The weirdest dog I think we did was one for truffle hunting, and it's a Lagotto Romanolo. It's a little fuzzy dog, and he can find truffles under the ground and sniff them out.
What's a truffle?
A truffle it's a kind of a mushroom, kind of a fungus that grows on the roots of certain trees. But in Europe, I think white truffles, or is it the black truffle, can be like, if you got one the size of your fist, it could be $1,000 or more. It's they're very expensive. And but they have a kind of but they use them in cooking, and they're very savory and aromatic, and they have dogs that find these.
Wow. Now, did you you have classes that you teach people how to do voiceover?
Yes.
What is it? If someone comes with you like with no experience whatsoever, how long, how many weeks does it take? Is it a continuous class?
It's kind of like teaching someone to play golf. Explaining golf, you can do it in like one sentence. You hit a little white ball, hit it over there into that hole about 200 yards away, and do it in like 3 strokes. You can explain golf. Doing it's a whole different thing, because it requires technique and practice and luck and all the other things that some intuitive kind of things. But anyone can get better. It's like me playing tennis. I'm never going to be on a tennis championships or go to the Olympics or anything like that, or to Wimbledon, but I can get better. Everyone can get better, but there's a lot of factors that tell that you got to have that to make it in this business. And I try and usually make sure that they want to do it for the right reason. They shouldn't get into this for the money. That's, it's because of a passion that you have, that you just have to do this, is the best way to describe it. People that just have always wanted to do it, I can get them a demo tape. I can work with them and get them as good as they can. But ultimately, it's when they get an audition, they've got to perform, and they've got to beat everyone else that's trying out. There's only first place.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's say for example, before I get to that, I just thought of something. Can you do Trump or Biden or something voices, or no?
As a matter of fact, I certainly can. I've done a lot of the presidents over the years. Well, Ronald Reagan was one of my favorites. Well, of course, Bill Clinton always likes, hey, it's great to see you. How you doing there? And so, yeah, I can usually get pretty close on all of those. And I've done them on television shows. On the Tonight Show, I did I think Bill Clinton on that one. Well, Herbert Walker Bush did that a couple of times. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture, you know. So yeah, you can.
Can you do Obama? Did you do Obama?
I never could get that. He always started at the. You have to analyze his speech pattern. He goes slow on the beginning, and he speeds up at the end. And so you find that cadence, and then you can kind of work your way toward it. But I never got a chance to do his too much.
So there is so much into teaching someone how to do voiceover. It's not like,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot. And so how many, like, let's say someone like me who came in, doesn't do voiceovers, whatever. How many weeks would it take? How many classes would it take me to get to where I can go audition?
It totally depends on their native talent and what they're going to audition for. Most people want to do animation because it's the fun kind of side of the business. It's also the most competitive. And most agents, to put you out there, the ultimate thing is to get an agent that will put you out for auditions. Now, to get an agent, you have to impress the agent. You have to have a good demo that shows what you can do. But then you also have the acting chops to, when they give you a script, here, let's hear you do that. Boom, do that right now. I can make a good demo out of about anybody. If I record anybody 100 times, I should get 1 or 2 good takes. But you can't do that when you're in a live situation where they give you a script and let's go. You got to be able to perform. It's like you could tape me shooting basketballs for an hour and then edit all the ones where I actually make the basket. I'm going to look great. But if you give me a real basketball, now make a basket, it's going to be a little bit tougher. So that's what I've got to kind of analyze, where I think they can go in the business and what their strengths are. And but some, I never try and dissuade someone who really wants to do it. I'll tell them the truth about what the odds are, which are, even at anyone, if you do 1 out of 100 auditions, you're doing great. That's just the way it is. Even I still do 100 auditions for every one I get outside of Disney. And that's just the nature of the business.
100 auditions to get 1 gig. You know how
Yeah.
many people would quit before? What gave you that tenacity, that consistency? Was it your personality always, or?
No, it's just, I don't think I was good at anything else. It was back when I was at the Comedy Corner in Dallas, Texas. I had gone through, and I'd been in radio for a number of years, wasn't really enjoying it that much, got out of it into electronics. I thought that would be great. That wasn't doing it. It's when I went back and saw that a comedy club and decided, I'm going to jump off the cliff and just try. Because if I try and fail, I can accept that. If I don't try, I can't accept that. I will wonder about it the rest of my life. And in my case, it was 12 years from the time I got out of college until I got the job with Goofy. So perseverance cannot be overestimated. It's like, the first time I did stand up, I wasn't that great. You learn, but you have to suffer all the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune until you get good, and you learn the techniques of being a comic or being a voice actor. It just takes perseverance and not being able to do anything else that well.
Wow. I have a friend named Teresa. She's from Boston. She's a cancer survivor. And she said, I do Goofy's voice to my grandchildren all the time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What is the best advice you gave your son? You have one son.
Yes.
What's the best advice you feel you gave him that helped him in his life? He's an audio engineer right now.
He's an audio engineer and also a professional drummer, which was his early passion. And he's been practicing since he was 11 years old and has performed on many albums and has produced records and albums. You've got to have a passion. The most important thing, define your passion and attack it with all of your might. I think was it Kobe Bryant who said you need to do something for about 10,000 hours to become a master of it. And
Right.
so he set out, he's going to practice a couple hours a day, every day, even when he doesn't want to get to that level, to master something and give you the best opportunity for it to succeed. You've got to devote that kind of talent, because there are people out there that you'll be competing against that are putting in that that type of effort. So
Right.
effort, perseverance, and having faith in yourself that you can do this and you're going to see it through is very important. It doesn't guarantee success, but as I tell a lot of my students, you can never ensure success, but you can always ensure failure by not trying.
That's amazing. Now, what do you call it? As far as your classes right now, before the pandemic, where students come to your studio and learn
I did
physically
a
there?
lot of them here at my studio at my house. I don't do big classes, and I don't do it very often. I only take on 3 or 4 at a time right now, because I'm busy with my television series, so I don't have a great number of time, and I don't want it to become oh gosh, I got to do another class. I got to have that passion for it, and so I can almost one at a time is the best. That way I can concentrate 100% and not split my concentration among a lot of people, just to kind of get them in and out, as it were.
Wow. So your class is like, for some, is it continuous, or you just say we're doing a 5-week or a 6-week or a 4-week
It
class?
depends on the person. Some people are pretty close there and they need a little tweaking, but they're really on the right track. Other people need a lot more instruction. So it totally depends on the person, but never more than 4 or 5 times. And they're a pretty, I can teach them to teach themselves. In other words, what I do. They'll ultimately have to be their own judge of their talent. And when they've gotten a voice down or a character, they have to learn how to judge themselves, is what I really teach.
Wonderful. Now, you're also a speaker and still a comedian. So if people want to get a hold of you, can they book you as a speaker or a comedian if they want
Yeah,
to?
and yes, absolutely. You can always contact me through my company, which is called Toonhouse, TOONHOUSE Inc. And my son kind of checks all of the people that are calling and stuff like that, and gets that to me, because I'm technologically ignorant in some
Mm.
ways.
So,
But
so
yeah,
how
that's
can
always the
they go
best
to
one.
toonhouse.inc.com to get
Yeah,
to you, and
yeah,
then they can fill a form if they want to book you, or they can ask question, or if they,
yeah.
what if they want to take the workshop that you're.
All of that. If whatever reason, that's a good contact for me. Or at Goofy Bill on Twitter, or that is a good way too if people want to do that.
What are
But
you
it's,
working? What are you working on right now?
oh gosh, just for Disney, I have several series. I have Mickey and the Roadster Racers. I have Mickey's Funhouse, The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, Amphibia. I've got, I did a movie that I can't talk about recently, that I did some background voices in. I'm pitching more things to Disney that we're working on. So a lot of hope for the future, but, and sitting here at my little studio here, and just gosh, just talking away. Yep.
So, I used to watch what do you call it, Disney Clubhouse with my kids, and Clarabella. I hated Clarabella.
Oh,
You know who she is?
Clarabelle.
Yeah, I hated her sound. I don't know. Is there someone you didn't get along with while you were doing the voiceovers? It's like,
No, generally, like I say, and the way it started was ensemble work where we were all in the studio together. But now it's 100%. I'm in the studio, and then Mickey will come in later and do his line. So I'm not in the studio, but all of them are generally great people. Generally, voice actors aren't like some, like the egocentric people you might see on television shows where they want to be the spot in the spotlight. We just like to perform and play. no voice actor is really that interested in being the center of attention. We just like the work, and we don't need the fame out of this thing. It's just the work is the reward.
That's awesome. I gotta say this, just remembered it quickly as I do. One time I went for a voiceover audition. They wanted me to do Omar Sharif, the voice.
Uh-huh.
And then they didn't call me back. I quit. I said, I'm never I can't do it if I'm not that good. But anyway, uh, in closing, we've been together for an hour right now. We have 100, almost 140 people watching right now, but we have about 1,800 downloads that happens a month. And I don't know how many are watching because we are on the top, 100 now. We used to be 56, now 79. So a lot of people watching. What encouragement do you have in closing as a man of faith, as someone really a hardworking man that really took the chance. You took a step of faith and it paid off. It didn't pay off right away, but you kept at it. You kept going on. You have a wonderful wife, Jennifer, who believed in you. You have a son who's working with you, which is that says a lot about being a dad. That your kids still want to work with you, and he works with you. What
So
kind of
far,
encouragement as we close with this show can you tell us?
as I say, there's no guarantee of success, but there is a guarantee of failure if you don't pursue your dreams. You never know what you can do until you try. And almost everyone I've ever talked to that tried did more than they thought they could. So, the future is a big question for all of us, but the main thing is to develop a passion and just go for it, because ultimately it is down to you as a person to go forward. Go forward, try. Don't be afraid of failure, because through our failures, we learn to succeed. And without failure, there is no definition of success.
Wonderful. That's great advice. Can Goofy close us with one, two, three, or four sentences or something? Just
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I've had a wonderful time, and I hope all of you do too.
that's amazing. Thank you so much, Bill, for taking the time. You're an amazing man.
Oh,
I'd
my
love to
pleasure.
connect
Thank
with you
you.
very soon. Also, I want to remind you guys, it's every weeknight at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook, Comedian Nazareth. We have our show live with Naz. Tonight will be show number 255. We've been together with you guys since the quarantine started last year, and we want you to know you're the comedian. So at 7:30 p.m. you join us. We're gonna ask you a funny question and we expect you to answer it, and you answer and comment, and it's hilarious. We have a group of people, family we call them now, we became family, that love you, will pray for you, will encourage you, and will laugh with you. Guaranteed you will have a great time. So join us tonight and every weeknight at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook under Comedian Nazareth. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad this stream worked very well. So I want to thank Javier for making this happen, and love you guys and have a great day. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much.